Welcome to the Bringing Intimacy Back show, where intimacy is real. If you desire to intimately connect with yourself, significant other, children, family, friends, community, and higher power, then this is the show for you. We explore intimate topics, inspiring life stories, spirituality, and insightful tips on strengthening relationships. The show is hosted by Dr. April and her co-host, Coach K. Let's get this episode of the Bringing Intimacy Back show started. We share with you today the secret power to intimacy to create the life you love or love the life you create. Now here's your host, Dr. April, and her co-host, Coach K.
Welcome back to the Bringing Intimacy show, where intimacy is real. Good afternoon, Coach K.
Good afternoon, and how are you?
I'm doing wonderful. It is so what you know, the whole world is feeling hot.
Yes. Even for me, and I love heat. It is hot with a long O.
Yes. I think they even said, I think was it last week or this week, it's been the hottest where the world has ever been. It's just,
I can believe that. This is the first time, and I've been in this house 18 years. This is the first summer that I have took my air down to 74 in the summertime.
Yes. And with all this heat and hot, we are going to definitely be talking about something that is very spicy in some aspect. It is cohabitating, living before marriage, whether it's the beginning, the end, all the controversies about it. And I'm just so happy that you and I get a chance to have this open space to have a discussion on it.
Oh, yeah. I love that we are able to have these talks.
Yeah. And if you're listening out there, and if you're on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and you have some comments or questions about living together before marriage, please chime in. We love different opinions and stuff. So please, yes. But before we get to that, of course, we always have a charity that we talk about. And this one for this month is called Love Yourself Foundation.
I love the name of it alone. Love Yourself Foundation. A whole foundation just about loving yourself. Necessary.
Yes, definitely. And even in what we're talking about, in the sense of living together, I just want to put a quick thing out there. It would work better if you love yourself prior to you living together with someone in a romantic relationship, because loving yourself is critical. And if you struggle with loving yourself, there's a great foundation called Loving Yourself Foundation. It is the lyfoundation.org, and it helps people create a more sustainable world. It's a organization that helps you love yourself, love others, and of course, love the planet. Yes. And so when we talk about loving yourself, and I even just mentioned earlier, you need to love yourself before.
Look, my Wi-Fi is doing weird stuff today, so I seem like.
Yes. Poor Coach K has some technical issues going on. Yeah, are you there with us now? Okay, so she's struggling in the technology. So until she can get back on, I'll just continue to talk about how it's important to love yourself as you enter into relationships. That's just one great thing to keep in mind. Loving yourself means knowing yourself, knowing your boundaries, knowing what you like, and being able to spend quality time with it. So as we start this conversation, and hopefully it won't just be a monologue, about living together before marriage. Many people say, oh my God, is that a sin? Is it right? What should I do? Yes. Any thoughts about this, Coach K?
I to me, I guess if you're going by the good book, so to say, then I guess cohabiting before marriage is frowned upon.
Mm-hmm.
But the realities are, it's sometimes maybe a good thing because it will let you know if this is someone that you could rest of your life. I almost view it as
I think Coach K
not
is
test driving a car off of a lot and just buying it.
okay. I think Coach K is having some issues, but she's what she's talking about is, and when you're living together or you're thinking about living together with someone, it's kind of like testing, as she's saying, a car before you actually buy it. And that is definitely one aspect to look at it. As she stated earlier, in some religious communities, living together is not appropriate, or some people may say that it's sinful. Statistically, it says that couples who move in together before engagement are much more likely to end marriage than couples who don't live together. And in many aspects, I've had this process of, I've lived together with an individual or two, actually. And I think when you live together, if you live together, but there's no purpose in the sense of going toward marriage, like we're just living together, we're cohabiting, we don't know what we want to do, neither of us want to go to get married or whatever, then of course, maybe that's how it's going to be. And it was interesting. We had a guest on last week who talked about American women and how American women sometimes don't speak up, or women overall. So if you're living together with someone and there's like, you guys never talked about marriage, or the person didn't want to get married or whatever, maybe that's all it's going to be. But then people get upset because it doesn't lead to marriage, but it wasn't stated in the beginning.
That's a good point that you make, is what are the intentions behind it? Because if you don't speak up about your intentions and you just move forward, you can't get mad about what happens, because you're just saying, hey, I want to play house. And then I expect this other person to just know it. If I'm playing house, then you're supposed to make it serious. It doesn't work like that. So I think that is a big determining factor in, living together prior to marriage, was marriage even ever on the table?
Right. And I'm just saying this even from my own personal experience, because I've been there. So I know the importance of now talking about, hey, this is what I want.
Yeah.
And yes, yeah. I would also say another aspect of living together before marriage and all that, it also depends where you are in your life. Are you guys just starting off as a couple? Are you guys each have children? And what does that look like? And bringing all the family together and living together before married? Or you're on the far end side where, children are gone and you're out of the house. So I think all those roles play a part.
1000% it does. And I don't believe that people who get into those situations really think that all the way through, that every small detail matters when it comes to getting to that altar.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. And so you got to keep that in mind. And what you don't want to do, when we talked earlier about values or the Bible or whatever, you don't want to compromise your own values. Because when you compromise your own values so much that you just don't know yourself. Yeah. And so
So easy
if,
to many of us do that.
yeah, yeah. So there's some people who, of course, believe in marriages, and there's some people who don't believe in marriage. But if you believe in marriage, then you've got to make sure you put out what are the intentions.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, intentions, and as much as I can talk about intentions, I'm all over the intentions thing. You absolutely should know if you don't know, but typically you know the intentions of yourself and of your partner. I would say within the first 6 months of being together. And if you don't, then you're really not paying attention to each other.
Right. Right. And like you said, and some people say, oh, wow, 6 months. Maybe if I say something now, I'm going to, he's going to walk away, or she's going to walk away if I put out my intentions.
Yeah. When the reality is, if you put out your intentions in the first 6 months without kind of shoving it down the other person's throat, if they fall back or if they, fall off, then thank them, because that's not someone that was meant to be in that, because that wasn't their intention. Their intention was never to have you long term if you can't talk about it in the short term.
Exactly. And I'm glad you put that. And so, as one who is in the dating world, I put out my intentions. This is what I want. Marriage was something I really wanted. So it's really like you said. And if someone's like, oh, but that's not really, I don't know, then that person isn't for you.
That's right.
Exactly.
And be thankful.
Right. Definitely. Yes. Yeah. A question that came in, is it normal to move in together before marriage? Is it normal? Normal.
What is normal anymore? I feel like it's like the new normal.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like it became the new normal from one generation watching the previous generation struggle when they almost a lot of shotgun weddings were happening. So they had to live together and raise this family because they were sneaking off behind the barn and getting pregnant. And so, without knowing all of the aspects of it, the assumption was, oh, well, I need to feel this person out before I try to commit to them. And so it became the new normal.
Right. And I do think back in the day when people had an unexpected pregnancy, people felt like they had to move in, they had to get married, or they had to get married and move in. And
Yeah, it was
yeah, even if it was unhealthy. But now, as studies shows, children that grow up in very dysfunctional homes are more maladaptive. They are not doing well mentally versus a child growing up in a single family home with consistency.
I didn't hear the last part. He said children who grew up in homes with
children who grew up in homes that are dysfunctional, where couples stay together, get married just because they have the baby, and they're abusive and saying all these other words to each other, are not as healthy mentally as children who grow up in homes where maybe it's a single person and they see their parent.
Yep, that is true. A single stable parent will be far more beneficial and healthy to a child than two dysfunctional, toxic parents any day of the week. And I did a live, sometime back, and the title was "Leave, the Children Will Be Okay." And it was really all about that. Stop staying around because you wanted your child to have a two-parent home when the home is just full of strife and negativity. What are you teaching that child? You know, what are you putting them through?
Right. And I even ask people, would you tell your child to stay in this relationship? And they're like, no. Then why are you telling yourself that? Because children are going to do more of what they see versus what you say. Another question that came up, which is a good one. What red flags should I look for when moving in? Okay, so number one, if you see red flags and you guys are dating, don't move in. Yeah. Yes. And a red flag, and for each person, it's different. Some red flags that I consider red flags is when people are drinking too much. It's one thing. When people, I don't know, don't have a job, or they're always going late to their job or putting off their job. Yeah. For some people, it's if they're struggling and paying their bills. Yeah, I definitely.
think one red flag that I don't think we pay attention to a lot is someone who always says yes.
Oh, yeah.
That is a huge red flag. And of course, you know, if you're a woman and there's a man who never tells you no, you're going to feel like, oh, this is awesome. I get everything I want. But if you really think about it, if that person does not know how to say no,
right,
then that could tear your relationship up. If you all get a house together, it may be somebody who that mismanages their money, doesn't pay their bills because they're telling their mom, yeah, you can borrow this money, or cousin, yeah, you can come over to the house and wash clothes. And, you know, so that's a big one.
Another red flag that I tell people to look at is if you meet someone and they don't really have any close friends, and they're not talking to their family, and they're all kind of like in what you said, they're just all about you. You know what I'm saying? But, you know, they have no friends or whatever. They've fallen out with everybody. That's a red flag.
Yeah. You need to investigate that thoroughly.
Definitely. So, yeah, that is something to definitely think about in the sense of these red flags. Yeah. Another red flag is trying to understand when a person has had a crisis, how they relate, what happens to them. You know what I'm saying? If when they have a crisis, they completely shut you down and they don't talk to anybody. They, go into a little hole. Yeah.
Yeah, that is major. So major, because how they act in that moment really lets you know when things get thick between you two, that's probably going to be their mode of communication, and is just to shut down. Right. And if you allow that, even for a short period of time, and then one day you say something about it, oh, you've changed, when it was you that allowed this behavior to, you didn't see them wrapped up in their red flag. You just close your eyes.
Right. Definitely. Yeah. And someone, as you said earlier, who doesn't have really any boundaries.
You're right. That's
yes, definitely a red flag. Let's see. Another question that someone asks is, women think living together means he will propose eventually. Expectations are high and pressure. How can a woman manage their expectation? How can a woman know if the relationship is leading to marriage?
Ask.
Yeah.
Pay attention.
Yeah. And state it. Say, yeah, hey, I want to be married. I mean, that's probably something, even when you're starting dating, date 1, date 2, date 3, you should even state out, this is my intention. Some people are just dating for hookups. Some people are dating for just boyfriend, girlfriend, We see each other every now and then. I live my life, another, yeah. But if your intention is to marry, that's what you need to state.
Right. And especially, as you get in a more mature age, if at 20 years old, you don't, you want to get married, but you may not be ready to find the one yet. That's fine. If you wait a little bit into whatever situationships that you're going through, maybe you're, juggling around a couple of people that you're dating. But eventually, yes, that intention need to be set. And how women can control or, control their expectation,
Right.
is to just stop thinking that everyone that you meet is a mind reader. That's going to be number one. And stop thinking that and expecting that man to be brought up with the same intentional end goal as you, because not everyone has an end goal of marriage. That isn't for everyone. Right. Some people just want to be in a long-term relationship without the court systems bonding them together. Let that be known, and don't settle.
Exactly.
If you want actual marriage versus a long-term relationship, don't settle, because I can tell you, if they have told you that their end goal is not marriage, you won't change their mind. And if you do, it probably will not last, because they only did it to make you happy.
Right. And then it's going to lead to a lot of resentment.
Yep.
Yeah. Or as some people would say, well, I felt trapped. Yeah, I got married because, yeah. And this also happens sometimes. I've noticed in my sessions with couples is sometimes they're dating and one person has a financial thing going on. And so they decide to move in together to cut down expenses. But they moved in just for that sole purpose.
And then one person just assumed that, ooh, right, this has to lead somewhere else.
Right. And it doesn't. Yeah. And then it's like, and so somebody asks, why do couples break up after living together?
You could find out that the person that you were living with, and I literally saw a post, probably on Facebook or Instagram, that I think a guy broke up with the girl probably within a week of moving in, because he found out that she was just completely nasty. Like, she took good Instagram pictures and probably a corner of her house, but she was just disgusting, like hygiene wise, house wise.
Right.
Because if you just go visit someone every once in a while, that gives them time to, straighten up or clean up. Or they may meet you at a hotel, or they may meet you at someone else's house. But one reason for breakups is to find out that someone is just completely filthy and disgusting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Another, I think, aspect is that they haven't talked about whether you call it house rules or household responsibilities and chores and all that. And those things need to be discussed beforehand. You just don't. I think what happens sometimes is you start dating someone and you're spending the night and they're spending the night, and then slowly more stuff comes, and then next thing you know, you're living together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you never talked about, visitor limitations. How much of the rent are you going to pay? You're eating up all my food. You haven't contributed. Yeah.
Right. And if, let's say, you're in that situation, then it's time now to make sure you have those conversations.
Yeah. I know my daughter, she had a boyfriend, and before they moved in together, because my baby girl is very smart, she had a whole agreement written up that this is what you will pay, and whether we stay together or not, this is your obligation.
Right.
And that's a reality. That is a reality. Having an agreement, like, you may be on the lease or the mortgage or whatever, but having a document that can be held up in court if needed, or at least to show that this is your obligation, whether we stay together or not, because you're putting yourself in a place where you're depending on another person's income or money to supplement this place that you're moving into,
Mm-hmm.
that it may or may not last.
Right. Right. And I like that how you said is to have a document, because like you said, if you're putting yourself rent or whatever, household or whatever the big bills may be, and that person walks out and says whatever, yeah, but you think twice about walking out on someone or just saying whatever when you've actually signed a document.
Right. You are absolutely right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because the sad thing is that when people are hurting, sometimes they can only think of themselves. They don't think of the collateral damage of, other things that happen.
Yep.
Yeah.
So put it in place while things are sunshines and butterflies, so that if the rain clouds come in, there are no questions. It's kind of, here it is in black and white. This has nothing to do with I'm mad or you're mad. We did this when we were in a happy place, so this is our agreement.
Mm-hmm. And if you have children and you move someone in or you go live with someone, you have to realize that your children do get attached. And breakup.
Yes.
When you break up with someone, it's just you. Of course, it's different. But when you have a child and they get attached to person A, B, or C, it becomes this whole, I miss so-and-so. And this person's like, well, can I come visit the child? And if that's not their, original parent, what kind of bond is that? Yes. It becomes a very tedious aspect. So living together before marriage, and when you have children, really think about how it will impact the children if the relationship does not work. And even sometimes having that agreement, as she says, or that conversation with this person who is moving in, of what is my role in helping you with the children. Those things are very important.
Okay, I'm back. Yes, they are. And I did get to hear what you were saying. Like for me, I took that gamble. I took that risk of moving in with my husband, well, now husband. And it was me and my two girls, and he moved in. But one thing that I can say that I can appreciate is, before he came down here, he said, I will not move in until I secure a job there. Ding, ding, ding. Even though I didn't require it, that is important for someone to show you who they are up front. Because he didn't want to be taken care of. He didn't want to, just add an extra mouth to feed. He wanted to contribute. So those are things that you pay attention to when you are moving somebody in. And as far as the children, if I had to go to work on a weekend, I would take them with me, because, as we're all still getting to know each other, I still want to be that buffer in between, because like you said, you don't want your children to get so attached that if you have to take that person out of their lives, they're severely affected, because they haven't learned to control emotions like you as an adult have. Mm-hmm. They just know genuine love, and then you just rip this person away from them. So especially someone who has children, you really need to think twice, 3 times, a whole bunch of times, over and over, about, is this the right decision? What is this person's intention with being in this household with us?
Right. And I know my stepdad moved in when I was younger, and it took time for me to adjust to that, that I couldn't just go into my mom's room. I couldn't just sleep with her, whatever. But also my stepfather at the time took time to build a relationship with me, mm-hmm. to play with me and all that kind of stuff. So we had a great bond. I've been on the other side of moving in with someone with a kid. And when that ended, the whole aspect of being attached to the kid was difficult.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. In that aspect. So, and figuring out what kind of relationship, if or should I have after all of this, which can be somewhat difficult. So it's really important to understand the impact you have on your kids.
I 1,000% agree. I set it in my mind that when I was still out in the dating world, I was like, I would never be with anyone that has children because of an experience that I had. And that was my hard no. That was, I wasn't going to do it because who wants to be ripped apart from a child, that you get to know. It's difficult, not just for you, but for the child. But the relationship that you build individually with the person you're with, you always want to build a separate relationship with that child. And so now you have to sever two
Yes.
different relationships. That hurts.
Yes. Now it's extremely painful for me. And so, like you said, I went through, the process of, I'm not going to do that ever again. Get attached to someone who has kids and move in without marriage. Yes. Yeah. So those are things to definitely consider when you're thinking about cohabitating.
Yes, it is.
Yes. And then when there was a question about, if you live with someone for 7 years, is it, I forgot what they call it.
Common law.
Yes. Yeah. And common law does not always exist in every state.
Right. I believe in Virginia, we are a common law state.
Okay.
I think, and that can get dangerous. So you should find out if you are a common law state before you decide that you want to shack up and just play house with somebody.
Right. Because I believe in Florida we're not. So you got to really understand the guidelines of that and what that truly means.
Oh my gracious, yes. And some people are happy to say, after they've been together for 10 years, there's a man who never wanted to get married anyway. It's like, well, according to the law, we're married, so that shouldn't make a difference. But it's like, there's a difference in almost the forced or arranged marriage because y'all just been in the same address versus somebody who on purpose wanted to marry you. There's a big difference.
Right. And like you said earlier, do not settle.
Right.
For our listeners who are out there, and don't settle. Don't just say I'm going to move in just because this is all that it is right now, and this is not what I really want. Don't settle.
It's not worth it. It's not worth. Don't put yourself in that position. Be okay with, if you don't have the intentions of having me long term, then you can stay at your place. We can continue to date, understanding that I may date other people to find the person that aligns with my requirements. And that is okay as well.
Right, definitely. And so one of the things that can help you to determine, like, hey, maybe is this person for me? Is this person, do we have that true intimacy? Because this show is about intimacy, being connected. I don't know if you know, well, I have recently released some intimacy quizzes.
Awesome.
Yes, that couples or individuals can go on to Bring an Intimacy Back website and click on there and take an intimacy quiz. And I look at all forms of intimacy. How are my partner and I connecting, not only physically, but spiritually, activities, communication. What's that communication intimacy? How do we resolve conflict? Financially, yes. What does that look like? That is a great tool to help you decide, help you bring insight. Because when you take quizzes and you take assessment, all that brings insight. And I think the more knowledge you have about a situation, the better you can make a decision.
That information is key. Knowledge is key.
Yes, definitely. So, final words on living before marriage. It's a great thing if it's something that you have an intention for. Something like you said, hey, I definitely want to get married. And it's leading toward that. But as we stated earlier, it's good to have some guidelines on it, an agreement, conversation.
Yeah, and if you are already in the position and you kind of see that it's not leading anywhere, have that difficult conversation. And if you set your intentions up front and put it out in the open, and that person seems to draw away from you, clarify, where they are, what their intentions are, restate what yours are, and have that genuine conversation of, should we continue this as just dating, which will open it up to allow you and your partner to date other people, to find the people or person that is aligned with your intentions. Living together does not make you marriage material.
I love that. Living together does not make you marriage material. Exactly. Exactly. Yes. What makes marriage material is being able to really, number one, having what you're bringing to the table, how your partner aligns with that on other things that are critical to each person.
Yeah.
Yeah. And finding those true intimacies in all areas of life.
And those quizzes will help you do that.
Exactly. So definitely check out those intimacy quizzes on bringing intimacy back. Well, we're going to take a small break and we'll be back in a moment.
Life can be overwhelming sometimes. We think we are a burden to others. We think that it's better to hide it and suppress our hurt, but it's not. As Cave Coral Therapists, we will provide you with quality, confidential counseling services in a relaxing and peaceful environment. Talk to a professional today. Book an appointment on www.cavecoraltherapist.com or call 239-565-6921.
This has been the Bringing Intimacy Back show. Yes, that was a wonderful conversation we just had.
Absolutely. And I hope that, if there's someone that's sitting that was trying to figure out which way to go, I'm hoping that this is a helpful determining factor for that.
Yes, definitely. So what's coming up next?
Oh, we have some great shows coming up next. So on next week, July the 20th, we have The Remarkable Healing Power of Crises with Suzanne Falter. On July the 27th, we have The Soul, What Is It Good For? With Corey Rezinski. And then on August the 3rd, we have A Heterosexual Relationship as an Intersex or Trans Man with Lino Martinez. I'm really excited about that one. All of them really, but I'm really excited about that one.
Oh, yes. Yes. It's going to be a very interesting one. Well, thank you so much. If you're out there listening, we've been thrilled to be out there so you can hear different topics. Please like us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. And this has been the Bringing Intimacy Back show. We will see you guys next week. Take care. Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of Bringing Intimacy Back, where intimacy is real. You can also find us at bringingintimacyback.com, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. Dr. April Brown's 7th book series, Improving Intimacy, is now on Amazon. We'll see you next Thursday at 3:30 p.m. Don't forget to follow, share, and subscribe.